Hi, this is Fiendish with Dimension Terrain, and welcome to the first of a new series of video guides with Dimension Tools version 1.9.10, or what I like to call DT 2.0. This is an update of the original Dimension Tools, which was first produced by the team at Rift Dream Dimensions. That version of the add-on is no longer being updated, just like Toolbox, which was the last add-on I did a series of guides for. As you can see here, we'll just go ahead and get started. As you can see, I have 276 items selected. Now with Toolbox, you're not going to be able to move those. And with the default Rift client, you wouldn't be able to move them without crashing. I've already broken this dome here about 3 times, trying to move it in one piece, and I've already taken out a section of the cubes that make up the top of the roof. But with DT, it lets you move much larger item counts without crashing the client. So here goes nothing. Let's go ahead and move it 2 game units in the x-axis using relative move, and it handled it like a champ. So let's do another one. It takes just long enough to almost give you some heart failure while it moves, and then it puts itself back together, which makes this a very handy thing indeed, especially when you start having to rotate entire houses or, you know, big pieces of landscaping, things like that. When I first started building Dimensions, I tried to move a complete build in Fane's Retreat, and that was my first dimension, and then I say after that I quickly built my second dimension. But before we get too caught up in movement, let's talk about the axis. What is the axis? Well, I'll just use these ice blocks here as a thing to go by. The axis is nothing but a direction of movement. You've got Y, which is up and down, X, which is side to side, and Z, which is front to back. Of course, X and Z will change depending on your perspective, but Y always stays the same. And those correspond with the yaw, pitch, and roll, which are rotational axes. As you can see, this one's flipped 90 degrees in the pitch. If I want to move it and roll, all I gotta do is spin the blue arrow. But I don't want to do that. I like leaving it up. This is up so I could experiment and see what they look like at maximum size in the light. So movement is a pretty basic function, but you don't have to use it. So let's break it down what it says by absolute and relative. You've got those movement features. This block that right here that I have selected, these numbers on the side, the X, Y, and Z, those give the items, well, more specifically, it gives the arrow point. It gives that location within this dimension. That's where the coordinates of where it was at. So if I want to move this, say, to 551, 845, and 458, that's an absolute move. And that puts it, say if I want to figure out an offset, now I have a good even numbered starting place to go. So I can figure out what an offset is. But I have the calculator, so I don't need to do this so much anymore. And we'll get into the offset calculator at another time, as well as copy and paste and loading sets and all that other good stuff. Now, say I want to just do an incremental move coming up, and I forget to click the relative button. So I'm going to move it, and it tried to go to that location within a dimension, and I'm sure if I was on my actual chat screen, it would have shown me an error saying it could not place it out of bounds. But if I just want to use relative, It'll barely move it at all. The only way you know it's moving is to see the Z numbers moving on the add-on UI. So let's go see an incremental move over here on this mismatch. These video guides are meant to work in conjunction with the written guides that I've put up on the DTC. So if you miss something, never fear, it's written down. And we're going to get rid of this and do like a 0.1 because this is a pretty sizable gap. I'm going to go into relative and you can see it move. I'm going to do it one more time and one more, and then I'll change it to 0.001. Now 0.001 we can't really see, but that's enough for your computer. And there we go. Now it's pretty well flush with no flickering and no huge mismatch, especially from the side where it counts, which would be the inside. And that pretty much covers movement. As said, it's a real basic feature of this add-on. The next time we'll get into scaling, where things will start to get fun. Happy building!